that are impacted by this. This area is pretty populated. This is going to be just south of Jarrettsville, north of Bel Air, north and west of Bel Air. It's moving off towards the north and east, and it is going to be impacting a lot of folks here. So what we want to do here is get an updated timeline, and we now have team coverage of this cell. So what I'm going to do is toss this over to Cesar Cornejo. Cesar, can you give folks an idea of where this is headed and how long it's going to take to move off towards the north and east?
Definitely, Patrick. So right now what we continue to see is this storm really rotating. And again, with this entire line, it's really just been one messy system, one after the other. We've seen that systems have spun up and then died down. And this is kind of what we've seen with this. Started seeing that tighter rotation, as Patrick had mentioned beforehand. You can already see a little bit on reflectivity, basically just normal radar. And it's right now in between both Jarrettsville and Bel Air. Jarrettsville, we're not really in this warning, but Bel Air, we are. The main rotation still over towards the northwest, and this is continuing to move for us as we see Darlington just down the line. So if you're in Darlington or if you're in this area of Harford County, please just make sure that you're able to get inside, get down to your lowest level away from any windows or doors, and just in your safe room if you can possibly get there. And then make sure also to be able to turn on the volume, turn that up, and be sure that you can still listen to us. May have a way to still get warnings, including a NOAA radio, weather radio as your cell phone, or something just portable, and a charger in case that starts to die down, and batteries if you have that NOAA weather radio. Once again, this storm is just hanging around, moving little by little over towards the north and east. So when we take a look again at velocity, the couplet is not as strong, meaning that we're seeing a little bit of weakening. But again, with these storms, they spin up, weaken, and then sometimes spin up again. So we're not going to go off just yet. Still seeing a little bit of that spinning going forward. And let's take a little bit of a closer look. So this storm system at the moment is kind of located over Hickory. So this will continue to move in that northeast fashion. So areas like McCann's Corner, also Poole, Berkeley is included as well in this warning. Just make sure to take some shelter. If you're outside, get inside. And if you're inside, find that room where you are no longer around windows or doors at the lowest level. Yes, you want to make sure that you are away from basically anything that can break and then kind of create shrapnel. You don't want to get struck by that. That can be also compounding to what goes on with this storm. Seeing a lot of rain. As I was driving in here, it was quite the downpour. And Patrick, as we're seeing with this system, it's not really giving up just yet, is it?
It's not. You know, these thunderstorms have been expanding and contracting all day, and we've been tracking several warnings now for the last couple of hours. This one now moving through Harford County, Bel Air. This is just to the north of you. You can see a lot of rain, lots of lightning embedded in this cell. What I want to do is switch back over to our storm relative velocity here, because it allows us to see the directions of the winds. That couplet is still there, but it is not as intense as it was, but that is still a rotating thunderstorm. So what I want to do is track that out towards the north and east. We'll track it about 35 miles if we can get there. Not a lot of communities here, but once again, Darlington, this is about 15 minutes away, heading towards Rising Sun in 28 minutes. But there's a lot of neighborhoods that are right in this area here. Once again, not as populated as some of the areas that we've been tracking all day. Folks that are in Pilesville, this is just to the south of you. That's heavy rain, that strong wind moving through that area. We've been looking at shear rates, and you can see that shear rate is moving just along, not as bright, not as expansive as we've seen in some of the earlier cells. And we've been seeing some small hail. So hail has not been a major component to this. So heavy rain, strong wind, and then of course this rotating thunderstorm, our major story. What I want to do now is zoom back out, because we're tracking this cell right now, but we have a very moist environment, to say the very least. So we are not only tracking this tornado warning, but we have a severe thunderstorm warning that includes portions of Harford County, as well as Baltimore City, eastern Baltimore City, Baltimore County, as well as now moving on to the eastern shore. You can see lots of thunderstorm, lots of lightning, and that all is moving off towards the north and east. Remember, this is a very active weather day. We have been tracking the potential for tornadoes, and that's going to be our story area at least through around 2 o'clock. So that tornado watch has been extended into portions of Cecil County until 2 o'clock. So lots going on as far as that's concerned. And then in addition to that, we also have the potential for some flooding. We're looking at our first round of rain that's moving through right now. Some of this rain is heavy. Caesar drove through it. Some folks are hearing it and seeing it right now. And then there's more rain coming later today, another opportunity for some stronger storms. So we could see some flooding. That flood watch is in effect until 11 o'clock this evening because once again, we have rain. It's moving in right now. Those showers and storms are pushing out. We're expecting more energy to move in as we head into the evening hours. 8, 9 o'clock, we're going to have some really strong showers and storms pushing through. And then that final burst of energy going to shift on out towards the east. You can see this upper level low rotating over here. That's going to be kind of the driving force behind this cold front that'll eventually shift on out. And you can see some clearing on the backside of that. We'll be watching these showers that are moving through portions of south and western Pennsylvania, because that's going to bring at least some intermittent showers to extreme western Maryland, but I don't expect that to be a major production. So once again, we're cutting into your programming like we've been doing all morning. Every time that we see a thunderstorm rotating, the National Weather Service issues a tornado warning on it, and we decide to track it. So we're always wanting to do updated radar scans because every time we get new information in these thunderstorms, we can determine kind of what's happening, what's going on with it. We see some strong wind there. Looking at storm relative velocity, we are not picking up on a whole lot as far as rotation. That rotation signature is weakened. Caesar, are you seeing anything in the chat or anything that's happening with that storm that you want to update us on?
Nothing so far right now besides the fact that I see a little bit of some activity just a little bit to the south of this one warning. It's not warned necessarily just yet, but let's take a look at reflectivity. You'll see that where it's starting to bend a little bit towards right east of Joppatown, that's where you don't want to see that. You don't want to have any kind of curvature in these lines because this storm system is already moving at a very fast pace in one direction, and once it starts to kink, that's where you get the rotation going. Again, that's not warned just yet, but just something to keep in mind of, especially if you're in Aberdeen. Make sure just to stay weather aware, keep updated. We're looking at at base velocity, so basically just how the winds are spinning. We are still seeing some rotation going on. It's again still happening in that one little warning that we have going over parts of northern Hartford County towards Darlington at the moment, and we'll continue to track this one, see exactly. We just got the latest scan. We are seeing that it is weakening quite a bit at the moment. So once again, these systems are known to just kind of spin up, weaken, and then go back down. So we'll see reflectivity right here. It's most of the activity is centered right around, I'll show that in just a second. I'll circle it. We'll see it's right around here in just south of Pilesville. And that's really what's still concerning to us. You'll notice that we have some of the purples there, and that's usually where we'll see the hail core, so the strongest updraft. And that's where most of that activity does hang around. When we take a look at another version of velocity, that's again where we're still seeing some of those stronger winds as well. So that's something to keep in mind because it's not just the tornado threat as really that's only the issue here. It's the strong winds that can be damaging. They can end up breaking breaking branches. They can end up creating downed power lines, especially with all of that rain. As it moves in, it soaks the ground, and we've been a little bit moist, so the ground can be unsettled, which ends up allowing trees to topple over. Power lines then topple over as well, so that can create damage on its own. Not seeing a lot of hail signature in this one system, so that is something to not be super concerned about, but as well, just something to keep in mind. There is the possibility of some penny-sized hail. And other than that, we're still pretty much seeing that weakening going on with this latest scan. Very broad rotation, not seeing much going on here. And again, as I was driving in, and as Patrick has mentioned earlier, we have seen that these systems cycle. You see some tightening, then you see it basically becoming nothing again, just strong winds. So this is why we continue to track all of this line and anything that's still coming around, because all of that energy is still happening behind these storms as well. Yes, we normally do cool down with a lot of these rainstorms and just in general systems, but at this moment, we're still moist, still warm, and that'll continue. Looking at the newest scan as well, Patrick, it looks like it's just continuing to really die down now.
Yeah, well, we've been seeing this tightening. We've been seeing the contraction. These thunderstorms, they really do go through that cycle. You can see heavy rain sprinkled up and down the state here. We've been tracking these storms for a large chunk of the day here, and what we're noticing is that we're tracking this tornado warning in portions of Harford County right now that's set to expire at 2 o'clock. So we still are going to be monitoring this for the next 15 minutes, but those aren't the only folks that are getting some strong storms. We're tracking severe thunderstorms through Edgewood, moving on to the eastern shore. Lots of heavy rain, lots of electricity, lots of rain. You know, we've already picked up 5 inches of rain at BWI for the month. We shouldn't have even made it to 4th, so we already have an inch surplus. We're going to get more today. We're getting the first round of it now and then more of it later today. So soggy grounds, damp grounds, doesn't take a strong wind to really knock down trees. So we are definitely concerned about that. We've been monitoring the National Weather Service chat. We haven't seen any of those reports in our area as of yet, but we're going to keep our eyes to the skies and, of course, to the ground to get information on what's actually occurring on the ground. So I want to zoom back into that cell because the thing that's most important for us right now is to give folks that are in northern Harford County an idea of what's happening. So I know that Cecil County, you're wondering what's going on with you. If you're in Talbot County, you're wondering why we're not talking about you. If we're not talking about you, it's one of those days where the story at this moment isn't about you. The stronger storms are going to be moving through Harford County. So let's dive in and get an idea of what we're seeing. And as Caesar and I have been saying for the last couple of minutes, this rotation has started to expand. And when it expands, that's a broader rotation. You can still look outside and see ominous clouds. Caesar saw a wall cloud. That's a big storm cloud when he was coming in. That's indicative of developing a strong thunderstorm. So still reasons to be on guard in this area, despite the fact that that signature has started to expand a little bit, because even though it's expanded, it can tighten back up, and we could be tracking this moving into portions of southern Pennsylvania. So reasons for us to be at least weather aware here. Looking at our threats, we've lost all of our hail signatures in this storm, so there's no hail there, which is a good news. We're looking at shear. Shear is those winds shifting with height. There was some of that present earlier. There's none of that present now, so that is trending in a very positive direction for those of us who want these storms to just die down. I know I made a Facebook post yesterday. A lot of you commented how you were over the gloom, the doom, the rounds of rain, the storm opportunities. Yeah, so I'm with you there. We're looking forward to all of this energy being past us. We're still picking up on some strong wind in this area nonetheless. So still reasons for us to use all of our severe weather practices. Don't go outside and try to be a hero. Don't try to be a photographer. We have folks that went to college to do that here. They're going to get us the pictures and images we need. We just want you to kind of stay footed, stay centered in where you are. Once again, tracking this entire line of storms that's going to continue to move off towards the east. I do want to at least go one place where I can take a look at a camera so that I can at least get an idea of what's happening here. I showed you this image earlier in our coverage when that tornado warning cell was moving through portions of Baltimore. This has quieted down tremendously. It's still gloomy out there. You can see the water. There's not all those waves in the water like there was earlier. And the skies, while gloomy and sprinkly, it's not overwhelmingly rainy. So that's a good sign for now. But Caesar, this is round 1 of what is going to be at least a bumpy ride, right?
Exactly, Patrick. We're still expecting to see that after this initial line of storms, we'll have a little bit of extra activity. Once again, as we've mentioned, it's a moist atmosphere. We see lots of high dew points, basically just how much moisture there is in the air, and that's what's created all of this activity. We have warm air. It's going to still continue to warm up as we get a little bit of clearing, and that's where the unfortunate thing is we still have peak daytime heating. And yes, once that sun does break out a bit, especially with all of that moisture still hanging around, it'll end up picking energy back up into the atmosphere and leaving us still prone to a few strong to maybe even severe thunderstorms. That's why we have that severe thunderstorm watch still in place. And we actually have had just the tornado warning dropped at the moment. They dropped it about 10 minutes early, I believe, Patrick. Yep. So it looks like we are not seeing anything else at the moment. No real signs of rotation that are concerning to us. So I'll send it over to Patrick as we start to sign off.
Yeah, Caesar, we're going to continue to watch these storms because, as I've told you every time I signed off, and which unfortunately has proven to be true, these thunderstorms can tighten back up. If that rotation signature tightens, we will cut back into programming. But for now, we want you and your family to stay weather aware, stay safe, and of course, we will see you at the very latest at 5 o'clock.
Consumer Cellular.
Whether someone is across the neighborhood, across the street, or across the room, you have the power to make them feel right at home. Ritz, a taste of welcome.
Are your sneezes putting your friends in awkward positions? Stick with